What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's see who we have in the chat. I see my buddy Nadrick. How are you, my friend? Yes, you are first. You are first. Congratulations. Hey, nothing wrong with being first, right? That's a good thing. I'm rarely ever first. I can't lie about that. Maybe second or third, Nadrick, but not first. So cheers to you, man. You are first. That's awesome. That is so cool. See who else we have in the chat tonight. Who do we have online in the chat? And then more important, what are you sipping? What is in your glass or glasses? If you have a flight, I guess that's always a good thing as well. What are you warming up with? Oh, some wild turkey 101. All right, that's a great starting point, man. You can't go wrong there. That's a good thing for sure. Nothing wrong with that. Can't beat that at all. Absolutely, nothing wrong with that. What's going on, Brian? How are you, my friend? Good to see you as well, man. Yeah, cheers. Cheers, Brian. Always a pleasure. Can't complain. Gandy Road in the house. Gandy Road, I'll be seeing you pretty soon, right? I think in a couple of months. So yeah, I'll be seeing you pretty soon, Gandy Road. Good to see you, man. 21090, my good friends from 21090, Andy and Todd. More than likely, that's definitely probably Todd. Todd's always in the chats, which I love. Todd's a super supporter, and he's always in the background hanging out. But I appreciate you both, my buddies Andy and Todd. Great guys. Check out their channel, by the way. They are awesome guys for sure. Devontae, how are you? Cheers to you, man. Cheers as well. Sipping some good whiskey, I see. Nothing wrong with that. All right. It is Todd. I figured, Todd. I knew it was you. I figured it was you. All good, man. That's awesome. That is good stuff. Good stuff. Who else do we have here? Esther. What's going on, Esther? Cheers from Virginia Beach. Esther, I'm so sad that I'm going to miss Tom's party. But I should say unfortunately. Fortunately, that's also my daughter's 17th birthday. So in order to stay married, I love Tom, but I got to love my daughter just a little bit more. So I'm going to miss that party. But you guys definitely have to have some pours for me. Maybe we can do a FaceTime, something like that. A quick little FaceTime just to celebrate somewhat important or in person, rather. That's awesome. All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead and get kicked off. So we have a lot of people in the chat. More people will be dialing in as we or logging in rather pretty soon. So when I think about if you've ever watched the channel before, for me, I mean the legacy distilleries will always be around, right? Everyone loves the big Kentucky-based distilleries and a few in Tennessee as well, obviously. But for me, the rise of craft distilleries is like it's just going through the roof. And you guys know I'm a big fan of craft distilleries. And when you scale it down, the state of Ohio, and specifically the city of Columbus, is like just on a boom. And it's time that people out there, all of us in the whiskey community, start supporting your craft distilleries. Hence the reason why my last few live streams, if you notice, have all been with craft distilleries. That shouldn't be a shock to anyone out there. So tonight we have on a special guest, our good friend Tommy Householder from Watershed Distillery. So funny story about Watershed. So, as I started to kind of dive into, let's call it craft distilleries, I was diving into them. I think I started to fall in love with Middle West spirits, and a couple of our patrons who are from Ohio, from the Columbus area, were like, Judge, have you ever had Watershed? And I was like, I think I had like at a bar once, but that was after several pours, so I didn't really remember the quality of the whiskey. They're like, you have to get a bottle of Watershed. So I got my first bottle of Watershed, which was a single barrel I got a while ago. That bottle is long gone. I mean, it's a distant memory. But I picked up a few other bottles, and we have a special guest tonight with us. We have Tommy Householder coming from Watershed on the channel with us tonight. Let's go ahead and welcome our special guest.
What's going on, my man?
What's going on, sir? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This is like in the makings. It took a while to get here, but I'm extremely excited to have you on the channel, man. Thanks so much for taking time, brother.
Thank you. Excited to sip some bourbon with you and talk some stories. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tommy, if you don't mind, give everyone just like a quick overview. Two things. Number one, like what's your role at Watershed? And then more important, talk a little bit about Watershed. Like how long has Watershed been around? Are you guys new to the scene? Are you guys like old school? Give everyone a little bit of some updates on all things Watershed related.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm currently the brand ambassador and state manager for Watershed for the state of Ohio. So my job is to run our sales team for all of Ohio, which is great. But
Okay.
also doing community outreach, doing events, and doing tastings and things like that. It's kind of my focus point on that. I've been with the company since 2018. I actually joined us in the restaurant side, on the bar side. So ran our bar program for a little while in this amazing restaurant that we have on site. We started making hand sanitizer during the pandemic, and I led one of our teams during that, which was a great opportunity to get back to the community. And then in 2021, I made the leap to sales. And, a lot of us hospitality people were looking to maybe get out of the industry. And I realized it was going to take people that really cared about the industry to get it out of the pandemic. And so when I had a chance to join sales and do education and things like that, I was like, this is an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So that's a little bit about me. What's been kind of cool with all that, though, is Watershed's been around as long as I've been in the hospitality industry. I'm 35 now. So when I started bartending when I was 1, Watershed came to the scene in 2010. So pretty cool to watch it, transpire from that. So we're in almost 15 years in the making, done right here in Columbus, Ohio. Founded by Greg Lehman, is our current COO and co-founder. He was a local guy, played Ohio State volleyball, played professionally in Europe, which was really kind of cool. And, his European travels is what inspired him actually to open up a distillery. In Appensall, they had, a local soda company, a local distillery, a local brewery, only for that town. And when he moved back to the States, he's like, man, Columbus is missing like a distillery. We had a lot of breweries, but no one was really doing alcohol with the high proof. And so him and his business partners made the leap and decided to dive on in and start Watershed, which is really cool. We've been growing so much. We're actually officially the largest distillery in the state of Ohio based on bottle sales.
You are? Okay.
Yeah. So, which is pretty awesome. And then we're in multiple states. For those that are on the channel, Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Connecticut, Jersey, New York. And we hit in Indiana, Wisconsin, and a couple other growth plans over the next few years.
Okay. Wow. So that's like almost like, I think I counted like 9 or 10 states with, including the ones that are coming, but then you're also online, correct? And which partners? I think I know I bought this bottle, or Mrs. Judge, I gotta give her credit, from Sealbox. But do you have any other partners, or just primarily Sealbox only?
Primarily Sealbox. That's the big one. That's where a lot of people, if they do single barrels with us, or, that's what I think is what you have in your hand there. And any other products, that's usually who we like working with and kind of going through. It's been a pretty seamless transition for that. So in the state of Ohio, with all the laws, you can't ship outside of Ohio to consumer. Different states are different laws. That's just one of them that we unfortunately can't do. So Sealbox are kind of our workaround with that.
That's cool. No, nothing wrong with that at all. Oh, well, I see we have on Tommy some folks from some states that I don't think you mentioned, but I would love to know a little bit more about maybe expansion above and beyond like the 2 states that you did mention. So we have a buddy Sean on from Texas. What's going on, Sean? AJ from good old where's that? Arizona. Yes, indeed. I saw our friend Oscar in from Texas as well. So above and beyond from there's Oscar there. Above and beyond the states that you mentioned, is there a goal to keep expanding to more states? And then talk a little bit about like how challenging is it getting into certain states? Because I would assume that's probably a pain in the butt, to be honest with you. It sounds hard to me, at least.
Yeah, you want to do it smart. You don't want to go too fast, too much, because then you start losing quality of your product. You start running out of inventory, and you got to have the pull through technique at the end. With if you get into a state, that's great, but then how do you get it off the shelf? How do you get it into a bartender's hand? How do you get it into the community and things like that? And there's a lot of money that goes into that. I mean, you can get listed with a distributor, but you can also get lost in the distributor, inventory and things like that. So it's really important that if we go to a state, we're launching the right way at the right time with the right pull through, or else it's kind of a waste. With us, we've got reps in a handful of different states with us and our merging partner company called Marusha Beverage. Texas is on that list over the next 5 years. And, I can't speak to everywhere, but the goal is, we're in the Midwest. Let's expand out that way. We also look at population centers. Where's the biggest populations? Texas is one of them. California is one of those. New York City, So that's the kind of the technique mindset behind it. And then also you want to make sure you get with a good distributor. And sometimes that can take a little bit of courting and things like that. And this year's been tough. Liquor sales are down across the country right now. And, a lot of distributors aren't bringing on new people. And so they're very stuck right now with all that.
That's true. No, good point. So it's all about, so it's not so much about just expanding to like multiple states where you want to make sure that from the quality of the whiskey, number one, is never impacted. Number two, you want to make sure that they're in the right places, like those really big states, like where Oscar is in Texas or in California, where there's obviously millions and millions of people. So it's moving to like the right places, but then also not jeopardizing the quality of the whiskey. I think that's what I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. And then, when we launch in these different states, every state has a different law. Here in Ohio, we're a controlled state. So the state, it's a 3-tier system and you've got to go through all those hoops. Other states are the kind of wild, wild west. And then it's wheeling and negotiating and all these things. Some states are franchise states. So if you're with that distributor, you're with them for life unless they cut ties with you. Yeah, Tennessee is one of those. Georgia is one of those. In Ohio, breweries are a franchise state. So when you're a brewery and you get with a distributor, you're kind of with them until they cut that contract with you. You got to be very careful on who you land with, or else it could be a detriment or it could be a positive.
That's crazy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. I guess if I ever think about starting my own distillery, I might need to just do a little bit of research, just a smidge of research. That's a lot. Okay. That's a lot more than I knew myself, first and foremost. And I'm sure probably a lot of people out there. So kudos to you, man. Thanks for educating us. That's awesome.
Awesome. Of course. Yeah. I mean, the goal first and foremost for us was Ohio first. We knew what was going on in Ohio. We knew the scene that was popping. We knew the laws that were slowly changing and things like that. And we thought there was a great opportunity, almost 15 years ago. And we made our bread and butter right here with the hospitality, with bartenders and restaurants. And we got the name out that way. And then we've grown since then. So.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good stuff. No, that's great plan from like a growth standpoint. Gerard has a great question. So you've been around for 15 years. What's the oldest whiskey that Watershed has, either that's on the market or just even like still aging in rick houses, warehouses, and so forth?
Yeah. So the oldest that we've released is 6+. Okay. So I guess like the oldest statement that we have on a bottle is 6 years. In the warehouse, I know there's some older stuff in there. I've heard, I don't know for facts, so don't quote me on this because I know they won't share everything with me on the production side, but I know there's at least some 8-year hanging out in there.
Okay.
As well. So we had changed a mash bill on our whiskey a few years back. So old mash bill we burnt through and we've gotten through that. Then we're onto a different mash bill now across all of our bourbon. So the 3 grains that we do now, we've got around an 8-year barrel or 2 hanging out back there. So.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So going back to that, so you guys changed like X number of years ago, you changed your mash bill. What caused you to change it? Did you not like the profile, or were you just looking for something that was different, maybe a little bit more unique? What drove that change?
Yeah, it was a combination of a few things. The old mash bill was corn, rye, malted barley, wheat, and spelt. So what we took off spelt and we took off wheat. Spelt, for those that don't know, is an ancient grain to Ohio that's similar to wheat in a lot of ways. So there's a little bit of redundancy there, to have wheat and to have this ancient grain in there. And to be honest, when you ask our owner, we were not professionals in the beginning. We did this with a passion for community and a passion to make good things for Ohio. And we learned a lot of flavor profiles throughout the ways. When our first whiskey that came out, our bourbon was 2 years old, and that's so different, if you take that 5 grain and age up to 4 years or 5 years. And so, it wasn't necessarily flavors that we didn't like per se, but we wanted to get something that was a little bit more consistent. And when you have that many grains in your whiskey, there's a lot of variables that could go wrong. And so now we are a 3 grain high rye bourbon. So we're 72% corn, 21% rye, and the rest is malted barley.
Perfect. That's awesome. That is awesome. And the rest malted barley. All right. So you got rid of those other 2, which I think is important. You're right. I think that was 5. That's a lot for sure. And the spelt, I've never even heard that one before. So that's kind of cool that you guys were able to kind of realize like, okay, this is, good, but we want something a little bit more consistent. So you went down to the 3 different primary grains, the corn, the rye, and the malted barley. So that's cool. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, for sure. We've experimented with bringing wheat back in to different we've got a couple projects we're working on just to see if it's something we want to kind of revisit again and do a more wheated whiskey or things like that again. But for now, across everything we're going to try tonight, as well as anything most people get their hands on in the market, will be the 3 grain mash bill.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, well, it's time to sip some whiskey because my day job was a little bit long today. Had some challenging meetings, so I'm ready to dive into some fantastic Watershed whiskey. So, do you want to start with the bottle and bond?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. It's coming at that 100 proof versus the next one we try is going to be barrel strength. So
Okay,
it's a
awesome.
good starting point on this.
Perfect, perfect. So now with like your bottled and bond, and I'm not gonna lie, as you can tell, I've already dipped into all these. Well, this one I had before, but these other two, I've already dipped into them and enjoy them. Let's say quite a lot. But for those that don't live in like those 10 states, can you find the bottled and bond on Sailbox or through like your website, or how's that work?
Yeah, you should be able to find that on Sealbach. That's one that we came out in 2021. So it's been around for a little bit. When we came out with that in 2021, it actually became the first bottle and bond bourbon coming out of Columbus, Ohio, which is really cool for us. So that was one we started pushing outside to other states as well.
Okay.
As well as Sealbach. Sealbach should have the core lineup, including some of our vodkas and gins and other things like that too.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, Sean, this is actually a really good question, Sean. I was kind of picking up myself on a couple of things, but I'm going to see if Tommy has anything that kind of stands out to, for him, obviously, as I'll say the watershed expert. But is there any like actual like taste profile that like when like there are certain companies, certain distilleries, like I'll even think of like one in Kentucky, Glen's Creek. A lot of their whiskeys have like a very like chocolate kind of a note to it, if you will. Do you guys have like an actual like almost like a standard taste profile across the board, or does it kind of vary based off of each release?
It varies a little bit. I know there's some golden flavors that we look for when we blend our whiskeys. Yeah. And, for instance, I truly think when our bourbon is on point, it's a little bit of a stone fruit cherry bomb. So I've noticed that on a lot of our whiskeys, we're getting those kind of really fun fruit notes on there. With it being a high rye whiskey or high rye bourbon, you're going to get some of those natural spices coming off and things like that. But when it finishes, that stone fruit, that vanilla, that caramel, those are the profiles we look for. Now, with the bottle and bonds, we blend a much smaller barrel amount of barrels for this one. We're thinking between 10 to 15 barrel blends on this max.
Yeah.
And we blend for a specific flavor profile on this one. This one that I have here, I don't know if you guys can see this on the chat. This is one that doesn't really leave Ohio that much anymore. This is a 4-year bourbon that's then finished in apple brandy barrels. So it's really similar to the one that you're going to try here in a minute, but it's bottled at 90 proof. So this gives off a lot of different flavor because of that finish on there as well. Okay. Yeah.
Got it.
But this one that we're trying, it's got way more stone fruit. And at that 100 proof, I don't think it drinks like 100 proof. I think it drinks really, really smooth on this one.
It does. This to me, actually, it's funny that you said the stone fruit, because I actually got that myself also. What I like about this, it's almost like a cherry cola kind of a note, like a cherry cola spicy note. To me, I think it sips, in my personal opinion, slightly above 100, maybe like 105, 107, almost in a way. But it sips very elegant, very clean, very crisp across like the beginning, middle, and the end of the palate, which I love the great consistency of this profile as well. This is really, really nice.
Yeah, a fun little story with this, if you don't mind me sharing. So when we were going to launch this in 2021, we knew it was going to be a big task. We know the history that comes behind bottle and bond. We know what that means to do that. Yeah. And so we took our entire sales team and some of our marketing team down to Kentucky. We're like, you know what? If we're going to launch a beautiful product, we want to be around bourbon culture. We want to breathe it in. We want to see it. We got to go to Buffalo Trace and see Freddie Johnson and get the tour from him. And all that stuff was magical. And so we went to Angel's End. We went to a handful of other distilleries, probably like, 8 distilleries. Then we go to a conference room really close to the old Forrester Experience Center. And we pull this bottle out. We all taste it. We all sit around the table. And no joke, it's silent for about 2 minutes. And we were all thinking the same thing. We're like, you know what? This can go toe-to-toe with any Kentucky distillery that we just tried. We felt so confident, so passionate about this. And so we knew that we had done it right. We had honored the past, but we knew we had to move forward and try this and get Columbus on the map. And we thought that this kind of would put that on the map.
That's what put Columbus on the map. I like that. That's a cool story, by the way. Really cool story. So were those distilleries like the Buffalo Trace and so forth, to Chris's question, were they some of the distilleries that I guess almost like inspired you, or were there any other distilleries like 15 years ago when your owner started, to create like the Watershed brand? Were there any other distilleries that, like for him, he was like, you know what, this is kind of what I want our brand to kind of represent? Any others that kind of stand out?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think 15 years ago, the landscape for bourbon and whiskey was very different than what it is now. I mean, the big hitters controlled everything, your Makers, your Woodfords, your Buffalo Traces. And there really wasn't, like you said, craft distilleries really inspiring us. But, we always honored and really appreciated all the people that came before, like the Woodfords. I think, I hear stories of Greg with Wild Turkey and a couple other things too as well, which Wild Turkey is also one of my, I heard someone was drinking 101. So cheers to you. It's one of my absolute favorite sippers. But the story that came on the scene that we really appreciated, and one we kind of look at is New Riff in Northern Kentucky.
Okay.
When they came on board, they weren't too far, around our time frame, and we really saw what they were doing. And I know we went down a couple times and met with those guys and just kind of chatted and shared stories and things like that. So when New Riff came onto the scene, we really appreciated what they were doing from a kind of a craft standpoint in a big market like Kentucky.
That's awesome. Yeah, New Riff is a great. They're a great distillery. I love their whiskey as well. I think I like, probably when I look at their whiskey, I might actually like their malted rise a little bit more than their bourbons, but the bourbons are really good too. But I love New Riff as a whole. I love what they're doing. Also, great storyline, great location, very close to my mother's house. So it's only 15 minutes away from my mom's house over in Cincinnati, Ohio. So that's always a good win. See my mother and get some good whiskey. That's a good combination as well.
Another thing that we look at, and was one of the ones we went on a tour with, was Angel's Envy, because Angel's Envy always does all their finishing whiskeys. And we know that was kind of a direction we were headed, and we wanted to kind of see what we were doing. And so, they've always, I think they're saying is the whiskey's not finished until it's finished, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now we don't necessarily do that with all of our products, but, taking what they do is kind of cool. And I think they're the ones that really pioneered that for a long time. And so now you see a lot of people doing that. They're doing double doubles and double oaks and finishing in this and finishing in that. And I feel like Angel's Envy was kind of out of the game a little bit.
They were. No, they were. You're absolutely spot on, Tommy. That's a good point. They truly were. Big time for sure. Big time. All right. So before we dive into, the Bottled and Bond is amazing. By the way, what is the price of this, like on Sailbox? Like roughly, not the exact dollar amount.
Yeah, MSRP is right around that $49.99. You'll find it at different prices in different states, but typically MSRP is around $49.99. Anybody in Ohio is going to find it for $49.99. So that's pretty standard across the board on that.
Okay, that's cool. Excellent quality whiskey. I love the cherry cola kind of a note to it. It's like a peppery cherry cola note. For it to be a Bottled and Bond, I love the way like that finished. Sometimes with like 100 proof, it's here with some distilleries, not Watershed. It's here, and then sometimes it kind of falls off a little bit. Yours is, it actually packs a really good solid punch all the way through. That's actually really nice. This is a bottle that you could truly honestly sip the entire night. It's not just like one that's like has to be like your starter of the night, if you will. That could be an all-nighter for sure, easily.
That's definitely kind of my everyday sipper. If I'm going to make a cocktail, it's typically just an old-fashioned Manhattan. I don't like to, for this one specifically, I don't usually do like whiskey sours and things like that. I really like the whiskey to show through. So it's my everyday sipper. Here in Ohio, we've done single barrels with this with a lot of bars and restaurants. So if you're a bar and you typically want to do a single barrel, you want to be able to put it into a cocktail. So you can buy a barrel strength all day, but how fast are you going to move through that? So the Bottled and Bond is a good one if you're a restaurant group that wants to buy a barrel for your restaurant group. That's one that we typically put people towards.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something, from a restaurant standpoint, it's like, that's a no-brainer. You can, I would hate to use it as a mixed drink. You can, but even just to sip it neat is like pleasant. But if you needed to use it as a mixed drink, sure, you can definitely go ahead and do that as well. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
So this lovely bottle here in the middle, Tommy, is definitely calling my name. And I know Devontae asked about it. It sounds like Devontae may have won, which, by the way, congrats to you, Devontae. Make sure you get to the distillery. Pick up your bottle, my friend. So this one here is the Fall Finishing Series, and I think this is the apple brandy finish. So can you just maybe kind of outline and explain like the whole Fall Finishing Series as a whole? Like, it's a little bit new to me as well. I've had some single barrels, I had the Bottled and Bond before, but this is a first for me. First time I had this whole Fall Finishing Series. What's that all about?
Yeah, so in Ohio, it really, the Fall Finishing Series started with this as its first product. So in Ohio, apples are abundant, and so we wanted to have that tie back to that. And we know that we're making these other bourbons and stuff, but we want to keep pushing forward. We want to do some fun stuff. So when this came out, it didn't come out as a fall. We didn't even have that coined as a term yet. It was just a fun product that we were messing around with, and it came out in that like November-ish time, give or take. And then in December of the same year, we released our new Chino finished bourbon, which is the first of its kind in the world, actually. So it's kind of cool about that here in a little bit. But so those came out, and then we had other ideas to add other things to it. And I was like, you know what? We were all sitting in the marketing office, and I was like, this is all kind of coinciding with fall winter. I was like, why don't we do like a fall finishing series? So for 4 months straight, we'll have something special that comes out each month. And so this now is our fifth batch, I believe, is what you have there, batch 5. So this first came out during the pandemic, during 2020. Okay. And, it was kind of funny when we released this. I don't know if you know, there really wasn't much to do in 2020.
Nothing at all, but drink whiskey.
Exactly. And people were drinking a lot of whiskey too. So when we launched this, we launched it as a lottery, and you had to come pick it up, and everyone was doing curbside pickups and things like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We had so many cars lined up on our road. We're in a back road area. We gridlocked probably about 1.5 miles of cars. The cop showed up. They had to break it up. Someone did a drone footage of people going over top, and so it was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But it was such a big hit. We're like, man, there is a calling for this. It's a really cool thing. People are coming around. So
wow.
Yeah. So this is now our 5th year of doing this. It was a lottery only this time around. Should always come out around October timeframe.
Okay. That's awesome. And then so each month, so September, October, November, and December, each month has its own release.
Correct. So September was a port finish that we did. And that was actually the first time we've ever done a port finish.
Oh, really? Ooh,
that just sold out on Saturday. So for anybody listening, sorry, you're out of luck until next September. It's definitely one you shouldn't miss. So that was our September launch. This apple brandy is our October launch. And then on Halloween, still kind of October, but we're launching our maple finish bourbon, which is right here.
Wow. Nice. Now is maple like the November/Halloween, the one coming up in a couple weeks or next week rather, is that the same process as all done through the lottery, or was only this one through the lottery?
So we do like in every other process. So September with the port finish was a first come, first serve, get it while it's here. The apple brandy finish was a lottery. The maple will be a first come, first serve, come and get it while you can. And the Chino finish will be lottery. So every other.
Every other. Okay, cool. All right. I am glad I have some good friends that live in Columbus because somebody, they don't know who yet, but somebody who lives close to Columbus will be making a trip for me on Halloween or maybe even November 1st. I'll even give them a day to stop by and get that maple bottle. That's awesome. That's
One little thing I'll point out too, for anybody that happened to have gotten this bottle, the apple brandy last year, that was one of the last of the 5 grain finishings that we had. So if anyone has an old bottle and they get the new bottle, I recommend do a little side by side. See if you can pick up the difference on the different grains. It's kind of a fun little project for you.
Wow. Yeah, you're right, because that makes sense because you guys changed over your mash bill X number of years ago. So obviously you still have some of that whiskey that's still aging. So you use it, like, for example, in the apple brandy. Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Wow. All right. Watershed. Very nice. All right. Well, that's good to know. That is good to know. All right. So you have maple coming out on October 31st, rather, on Halloween. All right. That is top of mind for me. Top of mind. All right. Well, I think I'm ready to dive into this this apple brandy. Are you guys allowed to say how long the whiskey sits like in the apple brandy barrels in this example?
Yeah. So this, I believe this batch specifically was 4 years in regular barrels and then 2 full years in apple brandy barrels. So hence the 6 year. 4 and 2.
Very nice.
And
all right, love it. Okay,
yeah, we're always
awesome. Very nice.
The fall finishings has some pretty big different time lengths. We kind of understood that some of them aren't good to sit too long, like the maple, for instance. Nothing against Knob Creek maple out there. I don't want to dog everyone likes it, but to us, too maple syrupy, and we realized that's not what we want to be. We still want this to be a bourbon that has maple notes, but still a bourbon.
So true. That is a hard. I find, like, with whiskey, not that I'm creating it, but like, obviously you buy different brands and so forth. But many of us out there, we buy different brands. Ones that sometimes, like, there's, I don't know if there's like an exact science, but like there definitely is like a somewhat of a science in terms of like, finding a really good quality product that, can sit in the secondary barrel and it doesn't like overtake the whiskey and it doesn't change it. So it like makes it sometimes a little bit bad or just, kind of throws off the taste. So that's it's definitely, harder to do than what probably most people would think. for sure.
Yeah. I see a good question here. Are they cask strength? Yes. Everything in here is barrel strength or cask strength. So what is coming in at 100 and where are we at?
129 maybe? Yeah, 129.2.
129.2. So roughly all of our barrel strength stuff, we've noticed a pretty big range, but we're looking between 120, 130 on most. We've had a couple 142s come out of nowhere, our hazmats. That's really, really cool, actually.
Ooh, this is so good, man. This is like, oh gosh. When I first sipped this the other night, I think I popped it the night I got it. I was thinking to myself, this is so good, like just neat. It's going to pair so well with a cigar because I love it. There's nothing like a really good cigar with like an apple brandy finished bourbon. This is going to pair so well with the cigar. This is absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, too. Someone asked, what restaurants do we do picks with? It's kind of an assortment all throughout Ohio, mostly Columbus and Cleveland. If anyone's familiar with the HR restaurant group in Northern Ohio, they own Rosewood Grill and Delmonico's and a couple of things like that. We've actually done some fun projects with them. We've done a wine finished bourbon for them that we finished in a Cabernet barrel, I believe. Also done single barrel picks of a couple other of our fall finishing series as well. So that's one of the groups. Anyone's here from Columbus, you may know Chapman's and Ginger Rabbit and Hiraeth. They're on their third or fourth barrel now, I believe. Let's see. Bristol Republic, they've picked some stuff with us. Forbidden Root, anybody that's from Chicago, on here, Illinois. They're based in Columbus. They've done a couple picks with us. A couple hotels have done picks with us, like the Hilton downtown and a handful out there.
Wow. Very nice. That's awesome. That's pretty cool that you guys, have like such a strong presence with like the restaurant groups and even like the hotels as an example. That's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah.
Wow. This is nice. This has such like a, the cool thing about this is that you still have like at its core, like the traditional bourbon notes, like you get a real good, in my opinion, a good bit of like the oak from the barrel. You get some caramel, some brown sugar as well, but you almost get like, I'm thinking of almost like a red, candied apple, if you will, like with the caramel, almost kind of like dipped, if you will. That's what it kind of reminds me of. This is dangerous.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you add a couple drops of water or a cube to it. It just like in a good way. It just kind of opens up all those notes you're tasting and just mellows them out, which is really, really cool.
Oh man, I'm gonna do that only because you convinced me, Tommy. That's the only reason why. I don't normally add a ton of water or even a couple of drops once in a blue moon. But only because you asked, or only because you brought it up. I gotta try it out. I
always tell people when you're trying whiskey for the first time, no matter what whiskey it is, always try it neat first and foremost. And from there, do whatever you want to it. I don't care. You want to add ice, you want to shake it, you want to put it with ginger ale. That's up to you. Whatever you do with your whiskey at that point. But as far as experiments go, it's always nice to play with that water and ice ratio and just see what it does. You can always add. You can never take away. So always trying to neat, then adding some stuff to it.
Good point. So Tommy, Chris, I think he's asking either about store picks or even like restaurants, because you were mentioning a lot of restaurants like in Ohio, but any restaurants in like that whole Eastern Kentucky area that might have barrel picks with them?
But Party Source down in Northern Kentucky has done picks with us before. So that's the one that everyone really knows. We've done some picks in other liquor stores outside of Ohio as well. But that's the big one in Kentucky, I would say.
That's awesome. Very nice. That's so cool. Very cool. All right. So I got a couple drops in here. I'm just going to see the difference once with just a few drops to see how it changes it. Oh, wow. What's different about this? A lot more like almost like a softer kind of a pear note kind of way. It's almost like a little bit more fruity, if you will. Yeah. Just like adding a couple drops of water. That's actually really nice. That's different.
Yeah, it's cutting back that alcohol content. At 100, almost 130 proof, there's a lot of alcohol there. So it's cutting that out and letting some of the other fruit notes kind of shine through. A little bit about our barrels too. We didn't talk about it. We're very lucky to have a cooperage right here in Ohio. So if anyone's familiar with the Jackson, Ohio area down south, our cooperage is called Speyside Cooperage. We use Independent Stave for years. Using core with them. We took those to Speyside and we said, what's your equivalent of char to this? We want something pretty heavy. And so we actually use a char 5 on all of our bourbons going forward.
Yeah.
So more the higher end, I would say, of the char families. But we're still lucky to have them right here in Ohio. They gave jobs to a very impoverished town, a town that had a lot of opioid epidemic going on. And so we said, you know what? We want to support them. They're giving back to the community. They're giving jobs, and they're doing a great job in their family business. So it made sense. There's no brainer.
That's awesome. That is awesome. No, that's cool. That's great. That's great that you guys work with Speyside. That's awesome. I love that from a cooperage standpoint. I think it was Sean had a question here. Let me pop in the wrong one there real quick.
Oh yeah.
Sean had a question about just the master distiller in general. Just any background on the master distiller, time with Watershed. Was he with Watershed from the beginning when the owner started the company 15 years ago, or just any insight on the master distiller?
Yeah, so actually Greg, our founder, is our master distiller. So he kind of has the final say on a lot of that. Now, I can't not emphasize how much of a great production team that we have. A gentleman named Tom is our production lead. He kind of leads the whole team. Ryan Bernick is our barrel master. So he kind of does all the blendings and all of the fun little experiments that we do. We got a gentleman named Chris Mazzaros on our team. He's kind of our R&D expert. Today he actually brought me a couple of different samples of our old fashioned that we do. We do a bottled old fashioned, and we have the next batch coming. And so he's like, hey, here's 3 of these. See if you can pick out the one that's different. And so we have an experiment going on. So that was really fun. But Greg Lehman is our head distiller and co-founder. So that's Sean awesome. Caught some of that early stages with him. But Greg was, again, Ohio local, Ohio State football or volleyball player, played professionally in Europe and all that kind of fun stuff. Came back to the U.S. and wanted to get back to the community and do something fun. And no one was really distilling in Columbus at the time. And so he took it upon himself and his business partners to try to get a distillery up and running. And we haven't looked back since. It was really great.
That's awesome. Such a cool story. I mean, number one, being from Ohio, playing volleyball at Ohio State, and just wanting to come back, being inspired to start his own distillery, and made it like to truly kind of come to fruition. It takes a lot of time, effort, money, investors. I mean, that's a lot that goes into trying to even create your own brand by itself, yet alone an actual distillery. So that's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned to you off air. Not only was he great for the community as far as the distillery goes here, but him and his partner really helped pass legislation. Ohio, for those that don't know, Prohibition originated right here in Ohio. We can thank Westerville. It's a northeast suburb. If you go there today, there's a Prohibition museum there. So, before Prohibition, cool. Believe it or not, there was as many, if not more, distilleries in the state of Ohio than there were in Kentucky. But Prohibition comes around, they outlaw alcohol, obviously, all over the United States, except for mostly Kentucky and a couple spots for medicinal. So there was a lot of hoops you had to jump through just to get the doors open here. And then for a long time, you could tour this facility, but you weren't allowed to buy a bottle here, or you weren't allowed to taste anything. You could see it, but you couldn't do anything. And so that's changed a lot now. We can even sell wholesale to restaurants out of this facility now, which was not the case 4 or 5 years ago. So.
Wow. So a lot of legislation that he was able to kind of help to change and so forth. That's crazy. I didn't realize he played such an instrumental role in changing the laws and so forth related to whiskey and liquor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's the bureaucracy can be fun if you want to call it that, but if anything, it can slow things down. But it's been a time. It's taken 15 years to where we are now, and as you mentioned, Columbus is blowing up.
It is.
As far as the distillery scenes go, which is really awesome for us to be kind of at that top. It's really great to know that we were a part of that.
Big time. Navy vet. Yeah. I mean, I think that just goes to show that, so if this one's sold out, the bottle and bond is sold out. I know it's difficult, but I'm sure at some point soon, Watershed will be back on Sillbox. I mean, but that's honestly, it's a testament to the quality of whiskey. Like I said, when I first had Watershed, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I just, one of those things I just didn't have at that point in time. So obviously the word's definitely gotten out about Watershed and it's starting to, build up a ton of credibility. So be on the lookout.
I see a question. So this is a fun question. Yeah.
It's a good one.
So I can't share everything, but I can share a couple of things that we have been working on. And this one's not much of a secret, but about a couple of years ago, we released our first rye whiskey. What we've been doing is once a year in February, we launch one barrel at a time. And it's been a 6-year barrel strength both times. So the fact that we've been working on that for 6 years we're working on rye in general, whether or not we're going forward with it or what, but it's something that behind the scenes we've been kind of playing around with and stuff like that.
Sure.
But the fact that our first rye that we ever came out with got double gold at San Francisco Spirit Competition for that category. So that felt really good that we were on the right path to do that. We've done some single malt whiskeys as well.
Wow. Okay.
Malt. Now we haven't bottled any of it. We have sold it or forced it out to some other distilleries, like Lighthouse and a couple other things like that, and they bottled them. What we'll do that going forward with our portfolio, not entirely sure. For those that haven't tried it, we came out with Uncut, Unfiltered bourbon.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that one. Tell us about the Uncut, Unfiltered. Like, is that from the old mash bill? Is that from the new mash bill, or?
Yeah, so this is from the new mash bill. This came out last year during our big whiskey fest that we had at the distillery. And when it came out, it became the first in Ohio history. No one's ever done it before in Ohio. As we all know, Smoke Wagon's the ones that kind of made it famous and got it popular. So we heard about them doing it. We're like, well, why can't we do that? And so we just said, let's try it out. And I tell you what, it's been such a hit. Last year was batch 1. We're on to batch 4 now because we've been selling so much of it. We have been starting to send this outside of Ohio as well. Don't quote me on what states have them, but there are a couple states that have been seeing some of these coming their way.
Okay. That one I have not seen either. I haven't seen it online, but it might be there. I haven't seen it online. And I haven't seen it even like when I travel a lot. I travel for work, but in the evenings I will definitely visit some liquor stores. I haven't seen that one outside of the state, but that's good to keep an eye out on though for the Uncut, Unfiltered. That's awesome.
It's a big yellow label. It's hard to miss if you see
that. It's hard to miss. Yeah, I like that. That's so cool. That is so cool. And
so
then
this is the closest thing you can get to trying our whiskey out of a barrel. We don't filter it. We don't put it down. It has all those great mouthfeels from the fat solubles getting left behind and things like that. So it's great. And every proof will be different. Every bottle has been a different proof on it because it's uncut and unfiltered. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. Sounds like that's Jariah's favorite as well. That's awesome. Pretty cool, Jariah. Good for you, man. You've had a chance to find it and love it. That's awesome, man. Good for you. So Tommy, real quick, the other bottles you have to your left, my right. What are those 3 that you have over there? What are some of those?
Yeah, so this one right here, we'll talk about this one first. This is our 4-year bourbon that's finished in apple brandy barrel. So it's kind of the little brother to the bottle that you have in front of you there. So it's 90 proof, so it's not barrel strength and it's not aged for a full 6 years, but we're 4+ on this one. This one, we've been sending outside of Ohio, but don't be surprised if you don't see it in Ohio, outside of Ohio going forward. It's we've just mostly been doing for Ohio. I know Georgia still has some of this. I believe Illinois and Kentucky and a couple others. Lately, what we've been doing, though, is selling this as an out-of-state exclusive. So this is not available in Ohio. So anyone that's out there in other markets, this is a just straight bourbon whiskey, not finished in anything, aged 4 years plus. So for those out of state, you might be seeing this one hitting your market sooner than later.
Okay. Wow, so, Watershed, changing it up a little bit. I like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Mash bill's the same. It's just treated a little bit different. It's a little bit closer to the bottle and bonds, but on a 90 proof and doesn't follow all the rules of bottle and bond, of course.
That is awesome. That is so cool. That is really cool. Yeah, Randy. I mean, Randy, the doer stuff, my good friend. Randy. I mean, their whiskey is so good, man. It's I really honestly to me, I'm just like, I'm happy that I found this brand because, I think there's just such great quality whiskey that's coming out of craft distilleries, and you guys are definitely growing so much. I love the fact you said this earlier. Even though you're growing, you're still not trying to jeopardize quality for quantity, right? So you're not trying to focus you're definitely trying to grow in terms of getting your products out there to various different new markets like Arizona or California rather, or a Texas, like the larger states, but you're still not trying to jeopardize quality. And I love that. That's the reason why I love craft distilleries, because you guys truly do take extra time to produce fantastic whiskey. That I think is above and beyond the most important thing. So keep doing that for sure. Definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I'm not going to lie. To watch it grow since day one till now, it's kind of fun. And I can't wait to see what the next 10 years, next 15 years look like and where we're at that point. I mean, the goal is we want to be in every state. We want to be in every shelf. We want to be in every back bar. We want to be in everyone's home. The name Watershed, which we didn't really talk about.
Let's talk about the name a little bit.
Yeah, so the name Watershed, if those that don't know, a watershed is where bodies of water will collect. And typically around these bigger watershed areas, communities and towns will pop up. So when we were coming up with our distillery, we're all about community. And so Watershed, where community starts, that's kind of who we are. So the goal is we want to be in all your communities. We want to be in your home. We want to be with hanging at the bar. We want to be at a wedding with you, with these kind of things, which is really cool. So, I say Watershed is the spirit of community, basically.
That's awesome. Wow, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Very thoughtful and insightful too. I love that. I love the whole concept of behind the name. So speaking about like collaboration and bringing things together, like bodies of water from that perspective, but in this case, bringing together like just different distilleries. So we talked about this like behind the stage. So when I think about the state of Ohio, the whiskey scene is just insane, and specific to Columbus. You have obviously you guys are some OGs as it relates like to the whiskey craft distillery world. You also have Middle West, you have High Bank, our High Banks as well. So for these three really fantastic craft distilleries, any chance that you guys will ever do some type of like a collaboration for either for charity or just as not like a main product line, because I know that might be too difficult to split up on a permanent basis, but any type of collaboration across like some of those your bigger craft distilleries in Columbus, you guys and the other two I mentioned?
Yeah. So as we kind of mentioned off air, so here in Ohio, there's the Ohio Distillers Guild, Ohio's Craft Distillers Guild. And so almost every distillery in the state of Ohio is part of that guild. And, there's ways of raising money. For instance, this past Saturday, we had our big Ohio Distillers Guild whiskey festival at Hennick Brewery in Delaware, Ohio. And it was nothing but just Ohio distilleries. And, proceeds of the tickets went to, funding the guilds and keeping things going and all those kind of things. And what we've done over the past few years is done a special release guild bottle. And so we've all donated or put a specific barrel into that blend and then sold it. And the proceeds of those sales went to keeping the guilds doing what they're doing, which is cool. So we didn't do it this year, but we've done it the past few years, and we jump around to different distilleries. So it's not always just the Columbuses or just the Clevelands. We'll take one from Columbus, one from Cleveland, maybe someone from Cincinnati, and just kind of mix it on a little bit. So that's the most recent kind of collaboration. About a week ago, we had our conference. So we were in Worcester, Ohio, at a Minglewood distillery, and that was when we all get together. We could all talk about the good, bad, and the ugly, what's going on in the state. Higher up, the superintendent from the state of Ohio and other people were there during that piece. We got to ask them questions and ask about legislation changing. So, we're all, rising tides, rises all ships, or however they say it.
Absolutely. So it does.
That we got to do. So.
Indeed. That's awesome, man. So it sounds like even above me on the whiskey, you guys still get together with like the other distilleries in the area. You guys, in that case, like the meeting that just happened not too long ago, you guys were able to kind of come together, like share like different like best thoughts, and so forth, like best practices and what you're seeing, challenges, questions about legislation. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's really cool. It's such a cool vibe, man. It's like I said, I think the vibe in Columbus is, a great vibe by itself, just living there. But then above and beyond the amount of great distilleries in the Columbus area, with you guys being one of them, is just awesome. I love that. I love that. All right, so you want to travel to Columbus. You're coming to Watershed. You're going to sip some whiskey. I got a couple questions for you. The first question is, when you go to your bar area, I know sometimes like certain releases, like the fall finishing series, this apple brandy sells out. I'm sure that maple finish is going to sell out like no one's business. That port finish is already gone. Can you at least get a pour of those at the bar at Watershed, or are they that sold out you don't even have a pour at the Watershed bar and facility?
No, typically you have a good chance. For instance, come to the bar today. Obviously, I had dinner at the bar before I jumped on this podcast with you guys, and I heard a couple asking if we had the newest batch of this apple brandy finish at the bar, and they didn't have it because what we do is tomorrow is the last day for you to come and collect your lottery bottle. So we wait until the end of that, and then anything that's left over, then we can start moving some things into the bar area. So the main thing is, because it's not a lottery, we will probably move some over ahead of time, so we will have some of that. Nicino would move to the lottery, kind of closes out, and we'll bring some of the Nicino finish over too. So we usually have a good chance. You find some other fun single barrels behind the bar too. Some of the ones that you've gotten and things like that, we do hold back a few of the bottles. The Uncut is behind the bar, so you can try that one as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely planning. Dry. I don't know. Mrs. Judge is. I think she's definitely starting to fall in love with Columbus. So you never know, man. Yours truly might end up in Columbus for sure. She's definitely starting to fall in love with Columbus big time, and I am as well, man. So you never know, my friend. You never know. So CJP, my buddy Corey asked a really good question about like almost like what's available on sale box, like versus what's not, and specifically like will this your uncut, unfiltered, the beautiful yellow there, will that be on sale box at some point in the future?
I think I can see itself in the future. I think right now we're going through the process of figuring out, do we want to make this a limited product where it's hard to get and, we really protect it, I guess, in a sense, or is it that we add it to our core lineup? And I think that's a conversation we're having internally and what that looks like. I can tell you right now, the direction it's headed is looking like we might try to keep it as a more consistent product, at least in the state of Ohio, potentially on Seelbach and things like that. So that's a conversation we're having. I don't have any finite yes or no's right now, but that's something we can have on and on.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, so TBD.
It's only a year old, TBD. Yeah, it's only a year old. It's
that's so true.
What the demand was going to be like, so we got to be careful with that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, when you put something out that's new for the first time, it's like, you never know what the demand is going to be. The demand might be extremely high, which obviously it is for that product and all your products in general. But you just never know, right? You truly never know. My good friend Winslow out of Texas, she just left Delaware, by the way. Her and Patrick left Delaware, my good friends. They moved down to Texas, so she wants to know, in terms of like your whiskey as a whole, you're trying Watershed for the first time, which bottle makes the most sense to try? And I will say they are very much really experienced whiskey drinkers. So which one would you recommend? Like the fall finishing series, I hate using the word hunt because I know it's something that we all sometimes love, but sometimes hate at the same time. Would you hunt for the uncut, unfiltered, or would you just stick to the bottled and bond and say, hey, that's a solid product? Which would you recommend, Tommy?
Yeah, I would say of what I have up here, I think somewhere along these lines. So we've got our uncut, unfiltered. The reason why I say this is because it's the purest version of our bourbon. It's the rawest version. It's as if you're pulling out of the barrel. It's barrel strength. As long as you like barrel strength, that's a good place to start. If
they do,
I figure on this call, there's probably a lot of people that like barrel strength. If you're trying to ease your way into it, you don't want to go right into 130 proof whiskey. I would say start with the bottle and bond or the 4-year straight bourbon for those that are outside of Ohio. I think both of those are a good place to go. Those are my opinions, I would say, of the three. From there, you can experiment out because then we go into the finishings. We've got, all of these are finished in different products.
Yeah.
So venturing onto those is where I would recommend next.
Okay. Cool. Very nice. All right. Very helpful. Yeah. I mean, the bottled and bond, which is funny. I mean, most times I don't really work backwards, especially as it relates like the proof. And even though this is like pretty much, like you said, it's cast strength at 129, I'm going back to the bottled and bond because I was equally impressed with this. I mean, for it to be a bottled and bond, a lot of times, like when you hear bottled and bond, I think a lot of times, like for some whiskey, enthusiasts or whatever might say, okay, it's 100 proof, it's going to be decent. I have, I'm not really going to look forward to it. But this is one where I'm going back, even though I'm going backwards in proof. I normally don't do during like a whiskey flight, but I'm going to do it tonight because this packed a hell of a punch for 100 proof. I don't know, you guys may have, I don't know if you add enough water to get this right to 100, because to me it tastes like almost like 110 proof. It's amazing. This is really
I'm going to run it back with you because this is definitely one of my favorite sippers. And again, when we came out with this, it blew me away because I've been able to watch the mash bills change and the flavors change when I've been bartending. And, I had some good bottles and some weird bottles and some great bottles, and it was all over the place. When this started coming out, I was blown away. We did take a gold medal at San Francisco with this product, I think about a year ago, 2 years ago.
You did?
So
okay.
That was cool. That was really cool to get a gold from them.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I get it. A good friend over the gun shop says that he would probably go with like the uncut, unfiltered for sure. I get that. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I mean, trust me, I am a uncut, unfiltered guy all day long. I definitely get that. But I do find value in the cool thing I love about whiskey is that there's so much value in other types of expressions, right? So this bottled and bond it's a hell of a pour. It really is, honestly. This is amazing from a finishing standpoint. If you love a finished product, this is great. This is even one where I almost like it a little bit more after I added a couple of drops of water, just because the fruit really exploded, right? And more than just like the apple notes that I had originally. You get apple, some pear, some cherry notes in this apple brandy, especially once I added a few drops of water. So you can probably go either way on, if you only want the uncut, unfiltered, I think that's cool too. But I think there's a lot of great options across Watershed as a whole for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say for those that are familiar with our portfolio and have had our whiskeys, I'd say start looking for the uncuts, the finished products. If you can find the rye in February and get your hands on the bottle, get it while you can. Another project that we're working, I can talk about this because it just kind of came out. For those that are familiar, Great Lakes Brewery in Northern Ohio, they're really, really well-known brewery in the Midwest. They always do a Christmas ale, and they're known for it. They're kind of made that beer famous. They gave us some barrels, and we finished bourbon in the Great Lakes Christmas Ale barrels. So ale gives off a lot of those like baking spices you would during Christmas. This year we did an exclusive thing for a restaurant group in Northern Ohio, but the talk has been, because of the feedback, people are really excited about it. Like Coming Whiskey posted about it and all that stuff. We're like, well, maybe we can reach out to other people, not just one restaurant group. So that's something we're working on. We might see here in the next year or so that we might see a Great Lakes Christmas Ale bourbon hitting shelves and stuff outside of Ohio and inside of Ohio.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Great Lakes Brewing Company. I like that. All right. Should be interesting, a little finish to it. You guys have some very interesting finishes. And kind of going back to the whole fall finishing series. You may have said this, so if you did, my apologies. Do the finishes stay the same year over year? Like, is every October always apple brandy? Every November always maple? Is that always the case?
That's the goal. Port was the first time we added it this year. The first year we did these, I want to say apple brandy finish came out in November, and then finish came out in December. So we kind of shifted a little bit because we fed Thanksgiving, maple syrup, like that made sense for the maple. Whereas October, leaves are changing, apple picking season, it just fit with kind of what was going on around us. And with port, it's the end of summer. It's like, cool, we're going to hang on the days of summer, drinking a glass of wine, whatever it is.
Great time.
And then in December, the Chino finish will always be December. That one is like fall and winter just hit you in the mouth. It's one of the coolest things, and probably one of my favorite things that we've ever made in this distillery.
That's awesome. That was my next question for you. What's your give me your top 2 favorite things you've ever made, expressions as a whole, regardless if they're still available or not. What's Tommy's King of the Hill, and then I guess number 2 of the hill, if you will?
Man, it's gonna be hard to narrow down to 2. I would say the Bottle and Bond, from when it came out, how it came out, it's got a sense memory to me that just is special. In 2021, I had that aha moment that I'm like, oh, cool. We kind of started as a gin distillery. People knew our 4PL gin, which got us famous. In 2021, I was like, all right, cool. We're finally now like an all-round, just amazing distillery doing cool things. So Bottle and Bond's got to be up there. And then I would say the Nocino finished bourbon. It is one of the coolest finishings we've ever done. It's the first of its kind in the world. No one's ever done it before. And it's got a crazy dark color on it. It's barrel strength. It is. If anyone can get a chance to win that lottery bottle, you're going to love it. It's a $100 bottle worth every penny. So that's one of my favorites. A close third would probably be Uncut, Unfiltered.
Ooh, okay. All right. The Nocino, Uncut, Unfiltered. All right. I like that. Very nice. So I'm going to tell you this. I mean, I've had a lot of this already, just even tonight. This Bottled and Bond is really, really good. This is an amazing bottle. I mean, it's so just unique. It's just very, it's very like full bodied in the mouth, right? It stays a lot of times. I said this earlier. A lot of times, like with the Bottled and Bond product or anything that's like in that 100 proof range, if you will, sometimes like the mid palate, it goes away so quick. You're like, I enjoyed it, but quickly I went away, right? That's not the case with this. This actually stays like it just stays like in the mouth. It kind of moves around, and it's a very long finish for 100 proof. This is an excellent bottle, by the way, and I mean excellent. I'm extremely impressed with this. Honestly, I really am.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's kind of what got people taking us a little seriously again for the first time was the Bottle and Bond in 2021. I think, don't quote me on this, I think Fred Minnick did give it like a platinum or something like that when he did his big Ascot Award back in 2021. So, the fact that we got on Fred Minnick's radar for some of our products is always a nice little tip of the hat.
Always a good thing. Absolutely. Yeah. No. I mean, Fred is obviously amazing at like his like judging of whiskey itself. The mouthfeel of that is just so it just coats the mouth so well. That's really nice. I can't put that down. That might be a problem. That's a good one. That is a good one.
The price point, $49.99 in most cities and states. It's not like you're breaking the bank, for an everyday sipper. It's tried and true, and it's delicious, and it's classic.
Indeed. All right, so couple questions before we wrap it up. So I know we've been here almost an hour, Tommy. I want to let you get back home. I know you got a lot going on. The question I have for you is, a lot of people think about, like different distilleries. And while we talked a lot about like, the vibe of Columbus, which I love, the vibe of the whiskey scene, specifically in Columbus, Ohio. But what's one thing, in your opinion, that sets Watershed Distillery apart from the others? Not saying anything bad about the other distilleries locally, but what's just one very unique thing from your perspective that when you look back, you're like, you know what? I love this about Watershed. What is that X?
And this is probably cliche for a lot of people, but it is our people. It is the people that have put the hard work and are the hard time in here. I mean, even going back to Greg, our founder, the hoops and things he had to jump through just to get to where we are. We have a saying, it's grit and hustle here. And so, are we the biggest distillery in the world? No. Are we the smallest distillery in Ohio? No. Are we kind of this middle situation that we're in? Yeah. But it's going to take us, just keep climbing that and keep pushing and keep progressing. We don't ever want to get stuck in the mud. We truly honor what has come before us, but we realize we got to keep moving forward. And how do we stand ourselves out? And I think that's why we've been doing these finishing products and stuff like that, and perfecting things. So I would say it's mostly our people. I think the people here that we've had that have come and gone through these doors, we've always learned something new. I mean, one of our last production distiller guys, Aaron Harris, came from Kentucky. He's now with Green River Distillery as the master distiller there. So when he came on board, he showed us some new fermentation techniques and we took on to that. My buddy Max, who's out in California now brewing, used to be one of our distillers, and he brought some really great brewery techniques that we didn't think about, and we kind of held on to those as well. So everybody that's come through these doors, we've taken a little bit and build on it and build on it and build on it. So I can't say enough about our restaurant team, our sales team that we have, our marketing team, and the branding that we do with all that. So I would say our people, and the outcome is what you're drinking.
Very nice. I love that, man. No, I mean, they do say, what makes a good company, honestly, at its core are its people. If you're good to your people, you bring in good people who represent the brand, which obviously you do as well. Of course, it says a lot about the brand and the fact that a lot of your former colleagues have now went off and they seem like they've kind of moved up in the whiskey world, becoming master distillers and so forth for other company. That says a lot about who you guys bring in. You develop and you obviously turn into like fellow, future, I guess, like whiskey, professionals, if you will. So that's awesome, man. Really cool. I love that. Yeah. Very nice.
It's been fun. There's only so many, I'm saying this completely honestly, there's only so many distilleries out there in the world that I would truly go and work for. And a little bit's product, but a lot of it's culture. A lot of it's absolutely what they build around them. And so I'd be very picky if I left here as far as that goes. Culture's huge.
Totally. Absolutely, man. It does. So I have a question regarding to kind of wrap it up. I have a question. So as you know, I love your whiskey. Our 2024 calendar is booked in terms of our barrel picks and so forth for the bourbon judge community. But for 2025, I absolutely, I'm in dire need of making sure that the bourbon judge community has our own single barrel of a Watershed product. The question I have for you, though, is when someone like myself, you mentioned a lot of restaurants across the state of Ohio, some stores in Kentucky as well. When you do a barrel pick, what are the different options that you have? Like, is it only bottled and bond? Is it just a straight single barrel cast strength, like this one here, for example? Is it a finished product? Like, what do you typically have to choose from? Or is it a rye? What does that look like?
Sure. It'll never be a rye. I'll tell you that.
Okay. That's all right.
We'll see. When we get a little older, we have more rye barrels we're sitting on. That's the hardest thing to come by. I've had so many people say, I've entered every single lottery since day one. I've always gotten a bottle. When people have entered our lottery, they're so disappointed because we only have about 200 bottles that we sell at a time. So that's the hardest one to come by. But typically what you see is the one that you have in front of you there, that barrel strength, the ones to your right, I believe. That one's great because with that one, that bottom strap there that you see that runs along the front of the bottle, we can customize that to you basically. So if you have a logo for the bourbon judge you want to put on there, we can put that right on there. You can name the barrel what you want. We can put it on that strap. So we have a little bit more customization with that. It's guaranteed to be barrel strength in that one. The other one that we have would be bottle and bonds. So if you want a little bit lower proof, something a little bit different. For that one, we do like a custom emblem, kind of like round circle sticker kind of thing on the bottle for you for that one. Now, we've done this before, and I can't promise that this is a case that would happen. And it's all depending on seal block and how we would ship it. We have done a single barrel of the uncut and unfiltered before.
Really?
So something we have done. I don't know if we can do that in general going forward, but it's something we have done. So I would say those are the three you have the best chance to do a single barrel with.
Oops, I think I got you back. Sorry about that. I think that was actually my Wi-Fi, not yours.
Okay, you scared me. We've been in and out of Wi-Fi all day here, so you thought it was me.
That was me, but I'm sorry. I think you left off with, at least where I left off. Rather, you were saying that once in a blue moon, you might be able to do the uncut, unfiltered. I think that was kind of where you left off.
Yeah, and I think what's dictating that is if we decide to make it a more all year round product. You know, are we trying to get this as a core lineup? Are we trying to push it out? So for now, I would say comfortably you could do either the one that you have in front of you there is barrel strength with that custom strap necker. So that's what I would recommend, or the bottle and bond. If you love the bottle and bond, we can definitely make that work probably for you.
Got it.
And typically what we do is we roll out about 4 to 6 barrels, give or take, for you to taste through. All different proofs, aging, 4+ years on everything. Usually 4 to 6 years is the range that you get to pick from with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely loving them both. I mean, I love this. I always will love barrel strength, but I'm not gonna lie. This bottom to bond is actually amazing. This is actually like I don't really end up being speechless too often, as my wife will tell you. But this is quite good. I mean, but they're both great options. So it's good to know at least we have some variety of different things that we can pick from, which is cool. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the one thing is you get more bottles out of bottle and bond single barrel than you would barrel strength, just because the proofing. You know, we proof it down a little bit to 100 proof, so you do get a little bit more quantity out of a bottle and bond. I know we're about to get off. I can try real quick to walk into the warehouse so you guys can see.
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna do. We've never done this before on the Bourbon Judge live stream. Tommy's gonna take us for a super quick, like a live tour of the warehouse, real quick.
Yeah, hopefully I don't lose you guys. Hopefully you guys don't get sick from you moving the laptop around. So we'll see what we can do here.
That's all right. No worries at all. You know, play around with some different.
So I'll kind of flip the laptop around here.
Wow, that's so cool. Oh man, look at all that whiskey just sitting in there aging. Oh,
so we've got about 4,000 barrels aging in here currently.
Nice. You guys see all that whiskey just sitting there, just aging. It's calling the Bourbon Judge community. It's like, come pick one of us. Oh man, Tommy, that is awesome, man. Oh, so cool.
Yeah. So we got some cool things in here where we bottle everything too. It's a little further down behind me. We've got a bottling line that can do about 900 bottles an hour, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome.
If you ever come for a tour, a little bit of a layout here. So everything from here is like apple brandy finish, barrel strength stuff, things we're experimenting with. Everything from here all the way down is straight bourbon whiskey.
Oh my gosh. It's like the Costco of whiskey. Dude, that is awesome.
You know, we do everything from a top fill.
Okay. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very neat. That's not the norm for sure. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of craft distilleries are starting to do top fills because you can store more barrels that way.
Yeah, makes sense. It does. I mean, it really does honestly make sense. It does. That is awesome, man. That is so cool. Hey, well, man, you gave us a private tour. Well, I mean, that is like a private tour, like at its best. I haven't seen that before, man. That is so awesome, man. That is so neat. So
when you come do your pick, we'll do a full in-depth tour. You get to see, because across the street is where we have all the stills. We have 2 different stills from 2 different countries, which is kind of cool. We have a German still and an American still. We have about 5 fermenters over there. We got the restaurant. So when you come to Columbus, or anybody that comes to Columbus, you'll see the whole works over here and see where the sauce is made.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. Patrick had a good question. I know you kind of essentially just kind of answered it. I don't think you saw the question, but is it more to kind of storing them like vertically, or is it purely just like it's easier to do from a capacity perspective to store them and you get more like from that standpoint?
Yeah, so the verdict is still out there a little bit if you get much of a flavor change from vertical versus upright. So everyone we've talked to really can't pinpoint and say there is. Now, the one thing that we don't have here, because it's a warehouse, is we don't have a lot of that open airflow coming through. So having gaps between your barrels isn't as important. Now, if we had a lot of that open airflow, we would probably want to do side fills because you would get a little bit more organic air flowing through there. But because we don't have that, it doesn't really matter. And so from a vertical standpoint, stands up, we can move them around because they're on pallets a little bit easier, and we can store about 5 times as many barrels that way than we can if they're on the side fills.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Great question, by the way, Patrick. My man's always on point. That's awesome, man. That is so cool. I love everything that you guys are doing there, man. I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Watershed. I mean, I really do enjoy your whiskey. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, not only with your bottle and bond, but with like your regular casting product, your apple branding, like this whole fall finishing series is just delicious. I can't wait to enjoy this with a cigar. Oh my gosh, this is so good, neat by itself, and with a cigar is going to be just like mind-blowing, epic good. So I can't wait to dive into this with a cigar. But hey, I just want to say, Tommy, honestly, on behalf of myself, the Bourbon Judge community, everyone that we have out there, Winslow, Patrick, 21090, everyone that we have. I've seen a lot of different people. Thank you so much for your time, man. We've learned, honestly, so much about Watershed. We've learned a lot about you. I know when I get out there in a couple months, I'm definitely going to be doing my own tour of Watershed, so I'll definitely reach out to you. I know Mrs. Judge wants to stop by, and we'll definitely have to check out your restaurant as well, because I heard the food is just amazing. But on behalf of myself and the channel, man, as we just say in our community, cheers. Thank you so much for your time, and we will definitely be in touch. Can't wait for the 2025 Bourbon Judge Watershed Barrel Pick. So TBD, to be to a theater near you soon, for sure.
Hey,
cheers, everybody. Thanks so
everybody.
much, Tommy. See you guys.